Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer from Wonderworlds and today I'm going to be doing a book review. I'm going to be reviewing The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. I think now I know that that's how you say it. You say Paulina Simons. If you don't, sorry again. I read this book around, I think 2 weeks ago. No, I reckon it was about 2 weeks ago. I gave it, I think, a 3 out of 5 stars, and my general opinion is that it was okay. But really, the thing is about this, I can't really speak generally about it because I feel like there were things that I loved and things that I hated, so there's no in between. So that's gonna be very hard to review, but I'm gonna try my best, and I have a few notes down here that I didn't write them down as I was reading, but I wrote all my thoughts afterwards. So I'm gonna try and make this kind of understandable, but it is my first review that I filmed, so I'm sorry if I get lost in my thoughts and everything, but I think I'm gonna keep it pretty much spoiler free, and I'm gonna leave every spoilery detail that I wanna get to at the end of the video, and I will tell you guys if you don't want to get spoiled. You can just stop the video a little bit when I will tell you. So let's just get started. So as I said in the beginning, I don't really know how to explain my reading experience reading this book. The best way I can describe it is that it was a real roller coaster, because there were moments where I would be completely obsessed with it and I just could not stop reading and I would be really into it. And there were just moments where I just had to stop reading because I was rolling my eyes so hard at things that were happening, things that were said, literally things that I absolutely hated. So it's really difficult. That's why I think a 3 is the perfect rate, because I really loved some things and hated others. And I'm gonna try and get to the ones I liked first, and then we'll get to the ones I didn't really enjoy, and then we'll get to the spoiler part. Okay, so one thing that I really liked about this book was the writing style. I really liked it. There were things that were beautifully said that I really wanted to mark the page and reread again. And also, mostly, what I liked was I liked how Paulina Simons described the city. I think in English you say Leningrad, the Russian city. I really liked how it was described, because I've never been there. I don't really know what it looks like, but there were moments where I literally felt like I could visualize the city. And I think apparently when she was younger, Paulina Simons actually lived there, so it might have helped a little bit, but she did that really great. And the second thing that I really liked is also, yeah, I'm a great reviewer. I absolutely haven't said anything about the plot or what happens in the book. So yeah, if you didn't know, this book is a historical fiction that takes place during World War II in Russia. And we follow a family going through the war, and we focus on the youngest, who is Tatiana, and her kind of tumultuous romantic relationship with the soldier. It's all a bit complicated, but once you get to it, it's basically a love story that takes place during World War II in Russia, which is not very, and it's not a great, I mean, it's not a happy, I can't speak, but it's not a happy situation. But about that, I really liked how the war was portrayed. I think it was very realistic, because we see it in a very large amount of time. We see it when the book starts, the war hasn't been declared yet, at least not in Russia. And then we see how we really get to see how the characters react to it, how they're surprised. Because Tatiana, the main character, is so young and we read from a perspective, we get to see how she has to come to terms with the war, because at the beginning it feels like she doesn't really understand what's going on. She just sees that important things are happening and people are getting scared. She doesn't really understand I know a lot of people have been a bit annoyed about that because she kind of even seems a bit excited about that because she really hates where she lives, and of course her parents are talking about going away, so she's happy about that, but she doesn't really understand how important it is because she doesn't know what a war is, which it is understandable. So we really see how I feel like we really see well how war is I don't know how to say it, escalate? No, that's not a word. We see a lot of different stages of the war, and we see the whole of it and how it goes very quickly, and it was interesting. We see her the part also when it was really cold and they had to stay home, and basically the Germans were trying to, they couldn't get to food and they were trying to kill them by just like that, by cold and having no food. So really, usually the idea that we have at war is just with guns and killing people with guns and stuff like that, but now we got to see all the different strategies and how really horrible that time was. So that was very interesting, and even if I read a lot of books about wars and I know about it, it was still very eye-opening in that way. I think those are the only two things that I really enjoyed about this book, because after that it's pretty much things that I wasn't a fan of, like the characters. Now the characters was something. First we have, as I said, Tatiana, who is the main character. She's really young and she's not your, you know, your fighting, you go girl. She's really just not like that. She's not quiet, or I don't even know how to explain it. She is very annoying, but also I get that she's young, and at that time where everything that was happening around her was horrible, so you can't really expect her to be like, you know, you can't expect to always have someone who knows how to deal with situations. It's also a bit refreshing to read from a perspective of someone who's not that great, but it is still annoying. And as I said, you follow the story of her and her family, and her family is horrible. They are abusive. They're mean, they take advantage of her, but also, that's why it's a bit hard to explain, is that it's horrible to read, but I understand why it had to be in the story, because it really reflects how it was at the time. She's the youngest, and at that time, when you're the youngest, you're basically there to do all the things no one wants to do. That it really shows how it was at that time. And there's one scene where Tatiana is explaining to Alexander is trying to explain to Tatiana that her family shouldn't be beating her and that she should speak up to for herself, but she explained to her, like, when you really get to see that Tatiana doesn't understand that concept, she's like, but I'm the youngest and I replied to my father, so it was, for her it's normal that she got slapped because she took it back. So for her it's normal, everything that's happening is normal. Who's calling me? Oh my god! Yeah, those are all my thoughts about the family dynamic. So as I said, annoying to read, but I understand why it was there because it shows how it was at the time. Then we have maybe the most important aspect of this book after the war, is Alexander. The book is focused, it says on the book, The Bronze Horseman, a love story. So as you can imagine, it's pretty focused on a relationship, and in here the relationship is between Tatiana and Alexander. And how can I explain that? I don't really understand that relationship. There were moments where I was really into it. As I said, that's kind of the whole thing that happened with the book. Because of course I liked them together in a way, because otherwise this book is freaking huge. This is 800 pages of really thin pages, and it's written in very small letters. So if you don't like the main couple, about where you have 800 pages about them, if you don't like them together, you don't finish the book. So I still wanted to know what happened, and I still liked them enough together to keep on reading. But I had a lot of problems with it, especially because of Alexander, who is, let's just face it, he is so emotionally abusive with her. Her family is physically abusive with her, and he's just really emotionally abusive with her. You should know that he's a little bit older than her, nothing too much. Oh my god. So yeah, as I was saying, Alexander is a little bit older than Tatiana, nothing too much that it would be awkward, but just a little bit. But it's the thing is, I like them together, but I didn't really like their dynamic, I would say, as a couple, because at some points it was creepy as fuck. There were moments, because not only is he older than her, but he's a lot more experienced than her. There's this whole dynamic of, you know, the very kind of experienced dude with a very kind of virginal girl who doesn't know anything about sex or all of that, and they fall in love, and he pretty much teaches her everything, which happens. It's okay, but it was turned out like a bit weirdly, because you feel like there are several times in the books where Alexander says that what he likes the most about Tatiana is her innocence. Those were the parts that I didn't really like, because he wouldn't say, oh, I like that and that and that and that and your humor and how intelligent you are and your innocence. He would just say that he liked her innocence. He would just say that. So those were a bit awkward. The fact that the one thing that he loves the most about her is her innocence. I also didn't like the fact that Tatiana is so easily manipulated, not only by her family but by Alexander too. She just has, it feels like she has no point of view, and you can do anything with her, and Alexander sure does it. And I don't know if I can speak about that, maybe that's a spoiler, so I will leave it for the end, but there's another aspect of their relationship that I really hated. I'm gonna leave for the end if you don't want to be spoiled. Other than that, yeah, he was a bit emotionally abusive. There is a literal scene where it's when they start to kind of hang out, and Tatiana knows that his experience, so what she does is she literally just puts lipstick on, and that makes him angry, because he says, you don't need that, no. I get that you could say that she doesn't need lipstick, but he gets enraged and says that she doesn't need that and everything. So it was a bit like unnecessary. At points it just felt unnecessary, and it felt completely out of characters at other moments, because there were moments where he would be really nice and others where he would just be awful. So that was kind of hard to keep up with. I also didn't like the whole idea of Tatiana almost worshipping Alexander. She doesn't love him, she worships him, and she would do anything for him. To the point where there is this line that I hate in books or movies or TV shows, is when a girl saves herself for a special boy. I hate that concept, I hate that idea, and it was very present in this. The whole concept of her just saving herself for him when he could just literally do what he wanted, but she has to wait for him. I don't really like that whole idea, of course. And also there's this, I can't really get into too much detail about that, but one of the things that stand between their relationship is Alexander's best friend Dimitri, who is kind of like the villain. He's usually literally the bad guy. There is absolutely nothing that you can like about this character. He's straight up bad and mean, and there's no really, you don't really know that much about him, you just know that he's fucking mean. And that whole thing was a bit, I felt like that plot line was a bit weak, and it was used at different times of the book. Sometimes he would just disappear and then come back like, whatever, I'm here to screw everything up. So that part felt a bit weak, and just to keep them apart and make things a bit more interesting and write a bit more pages, which was really, you don't need that. You didn't need, that's the thing, you didn't need 800 pages of that love story. And there are 3 books. This is the first book in the series. I still don't know, I'm not sure I'm gonna continue on with the series because they're too long, and just 800, I'm pretty sure the others are even longer, so I'm not sure about that. Yeah, so I think those are the only things I can say without spoiling big things about the story. So now I'm gonna get into really not that much. I have just I just have like 2 things to say that are pretty massively spoilers. So if you haven't read the book and you want to read it, maybe just stop the video right there and come back once you've read it. And yeah, I mean, if you want to read this book after everything that I've said, then go you. You're determined, because I wouldn't, but whatever, you can do whatever you want. So yeah, now spoilers. Okay, so spoiler things. Like I said, I think there are just 2 things, and they kind of go with things that I said in the beginning of the video. First thing is maybe the main thing. No, not the main thing. The second. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. The second thing that I hated the most about Tatiana and Alexander's relationship is the whole Dasha thing. If you didn't know, if you don't remember, or if you decided to continue on without having read the book, Dasha is Tatiana's older sister. And how Tatiana and Alexander meet is they meet, I think, at the bus stop, and they absolutely don't know each other. Which, again, that scene was a bit creepy. Like, he just starts following her. He could be anyone, and she's like, oh my god, who's that cute boy following me? He could be a murderer, just don't let him follow you. But whatever, she's like, oh my god, he has cute eyes, let him follow me. So yeah, they meet a bit like that, weirdly, and then they end up meeting the whole family anyways. And then you realize at that point that, yeah, one thing, the book starts with Dasha saying that she fell in love, she's so in love with a guy that na. And guess what? It is freaking Alexander. And now we end up with a point where basically Alexander is not Dasha's boyfriend, but he's involved with her, and Dasha is head over heels in love with him. And again, Tatiana just completely fell in love with him, even if they know each other for like 5 seconds. She loves him. So that's awkward as hell. And you would think that in that situation they would speak up instantly, because at that point Tatiana and Alexander are not involved. They just met, but they have kind of like a, I wouldn't say love at first sight, but kind of huge crush at first sight. And you can see that Alexander is a bit like, really? Is that what's happening to me right now? The sister? But no, they continue on and they just do everything. They don't really do everything in the, like, they, of course they hide it to Dasha, but I don't know how to explain it. You can't really say that they, it's almost like cheating but not really, which is the thing that was most annoying with it, is that they kind of cheat, but only because they keep on falling in love with each other without really doing anything, which is a bit weird. And I don't know, I don't like that whole plot line of like cheating on with the sister. I just hate that in everything, and that made me pretty uncomfortable. And when I realized that they were going to keep with it, this book is separated in 2 parts, book 1 and book 2. This is the whole kind of thing that keeps them apart for the first book, then it's another thing. And yeah, I didn't really like that, made me uncomfortable, and also it felt a bit too much, because it could have been easily dealt with, but it just dragged a lot. So that made me really angry and uncomfortable. Yeah, so as I said, the book is separated in 2 parts, and in the second part her entire family died. She just lost Dasha, and Alexander is back at war, so Tatiana ends up completely alone in a little city with, I think it's I don't know if it's her family or just relatives, far away family, but she ends up with them, and it's the same situation. They do anything they want with her. She is their slave. She does whatever they want, and yeah, you would have thought that she would have grown a little bit, but no, she's back to page 1 doing the same things with just other people and calling them family, which was a little bit weird. And then Alexander comes back. There's a whole around maybe 100 pages of trouble in them fighting and being like, because when Dasha's dying, Dasha kind of realizes at the very end that Tatiana and Alexander love each other. Like at the very end when she's dying, when everyone else realized it, she realizes it when she's dying, and she just confronts him. And of course, their kind of secret of Tatiana and Alexander, everything Tatiana asks of him is don't break my sister's heart. So he didn't say it. When Dasha was dying, everything he said was, that's not true, I never loved your sister, I love you, blah 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 blah. And Tatiana is just confused when she asked him to never say it in front of her sister. Now she believes that he was a liar, which, again, why you're the one who asked him and now you're playing confused, I didn't understand. So there's a whole kind of 100 pages of them fighting, and then they finally get together and they instantly get married. And then there's maybe, I swear, 200 pages of them just having sex. Now I get this is an adult, this is not YA, so I understand that there's sex. I wasn't bothered by that. There was just that. Just, you would have them speaking for 1-2 pages, and then they would just have sex. They would be like cooking, and then oh my god, they end up having sex, and they go to the grocery store, and they come back and they have sex. For 200 pages, that was just too much, unnecessary. Didn't understand why. And then he just goes back to war and drama again, and he just yells at her. And also, once they get married, he just gets even worse at the whole emotionally controlling thing. There's an actual, I think there's a moment where he says it, like, really, where is it? Yeah, she tells him basically because he's very jealous, and not just a little bit, he's jealous about anything. Like, if she would just speak to someone, not just a guy, like anyone else, he gets angry. When she's cooking and she's like serving food to him, if she then serves food to someone of her family, he gets angry, which is a bit, I mean, like, come on, stop that. So, as I was saying in that part, they got married, and Tatiana explains to Alexander that she thought once they would get married he would be a bit less jealous because they're married. And there is a part where he literally says, she says, what is it? She says, because we're married, and then he replies, to shatter your illusions, I will warn you right now that everything you've seen will increase now that you're my wife. Everything. And then she says, everything? He says, yes. Protectiveness, possessiveness, jealousy, all of it. 100-fold. That's the nature of the beast. Didn't want to tell you before, thought it might scare you off. Like, I didn't want to tell you that I would be a psychopath because I thought in the end you wouldn't marry me. I mean, come on. Really? So yeah, he just gets even worse, and but he knows it feels like he knows he has her in the palm of his hand, so he could do anything and she would just follow. That's what happens in the rest of the book. Then there's just drama with the war, and she gets pregnant. Of course she gets pregnant. She gets pregnant and he goes back to the front, and she follows him because she is crazy. She's pregnant, she's finally safe in a city where there is no war, and she follows him when he told her to not follow him. So she's crazy. They fight, then obviously they have sex, and then she kind of becomes a nurse, and there's a whole drama because Alexander is, yeah, huge secret, Alexander is not Russian, he's actually American, and the whole thing that Dmitri is so evil is because he's one of the only ones knowing that Alexander's not really Russian and that he's in fact American, and at the point his parents were communist, and then there's a whole kind of political drama about that, and then at the end of the book they get separated. And I think where it lives is that Tatiana thinks that Alexander is dead because that's what he wanted. He wanted to make sure that she thought he was dead so she would go to America to be safe. So now she thinks he's dead, so she is in America. The book ends when she's giving birth, and we know he's not dead, but she doesn't. And I think the whole plot of the second movie is that she kind of has a feeling that he's not really dead, and somehow they would get reunited, I think. Actually, I don't think I know because I spoiled myself. I wanted to know what happened in the two last books, so I basically know what happens in the whole series, but I don't know if I have a willpower enough to read it, so I guess we'll see. I think that's everything I have to say about this book. I know I must have missed some things, but I don't know, because it's something I didn't really enjoy. I will see. I'm gonna try and get better at doing reviews. I know this was a bit all over the place, not really constructed. Next time I think I will do. I just have notes and they were not even organized, though. I swear, I promise, next time it will be better. You can like and subscribe if you like and you want to be subscribed. And you can comment down below if you have read the book, what did you think? If you agreed with me, if you disagreed with me. If you wanted to read this book and after viewing this review you don't want, I'm sorry, but I think I just saved you a good amount of your time. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!